Hi, my name is Darkhound05, and this is a little VTuber dude I drew up, rigged up, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, I want to try to start really making some more regular content. You know how it goes in the start. It's trial and error. You work with whatever time you have, all that. But yeah, but as you can see by my background, I've really gotten WWE this year, and next week marks a really important date for WWE. It marks the debut of Raw, Monday Night Raw, on Netflix. And it's going to basically be a PLE premium live event in its own right. And if you haven't ever watched WWE, that's basically like a pay-per-view. But if you have a Peacock subscription, that's how you cover most of them. This one usually a Netflix subscription. So if you're new, like I was last year, or a returning person, all you have to do to get into this really is to just open up Netflix and watch. And this is like the best time to do it because this is the hottest the product has been in a hot minute. So I want to go through the card for Monday Night Raw on the 6th. I want to maybe predict a match or two that might also be added and predict some segments and some other things. So let's get started. So we have 4 confirmed matches. I'll get through that in a sec. And we also have John Cena is confirmed to be making an appearance to kick off his farewell tour. His one last time, whatever you want to call it. So the first of 4 matches we have confirmed is Tribal Combat between Solo Sikoa and Roman Reigns for the Ulafala, which basically decides who is the Tribal Chief. So if you're new to wrestling, there's a whole storyline. There's this family, the Anoa'i family, and there's a ton of them that are wrestlers, and Roman Reigns was decreed by his father and uncle as the tribal chief of the bloodline, and that's kicked off a whole bloodline story since then. But after Roman Reigns, who was the champion going into last year's WrestleMania, Cody Rhodes defeated him, finishing his story. That's a whole other thing. Solo Sikoa, in Roman Reigns' absence, rose up to be tribal chief. So my prediction for Tribal Combat is that Solo, probably with help from The Rock, will win. I think the Bloodline story has a lot of meat left on the bone. Roman winning back to Ulafala now doesn't make a ton of sense in terms of storytelling wise. He hasn't really atoned or apologized for his actions as leader of the Bloodline to Jey Uso, to Jimmy Uso, and to Sami Zayn. Like, it would feel really hollow. I know they've been working with him, but it's more in conjunction to stop Solo. Solo has attacked all of them. But more than likely, The Rock is going to emerge as like the true tribal chief. Like, Solo's going to be like, I did this for you, and give him the Ulafala. Or reveal that he is working for him. I think this could help set up build to a Rock and Roman match. Like, if that's the way you want to go to get Roman it back, I guess against The Rock it would work. The Rock with the final boss has become like one of the best villains, best heels. And that could work in that regard, but I just feel like Netflix, Solo needs to win because the story dictates that he needs to win. Roman winning would kind of be a hollow victory. I think people would really like it, but I think there's a lot more to do with Roman before he gets his big moment. So the next match confirmed is a Women's World Championship match between Rhea Ripley and the reigning Women's World Champion in Liv Morgan. I think Rhea Ripley is going to win. This feud has kind of kept the belt hostage. Like, there's only really been 2 matches that Liv has had outside of Rhea, and that was a match against Selena Vega on a episode of Monday Night Raw, and then a match against Io Sky at Saturday Night's main event. I've liked Liv Morgan's title reign. I just feel like this feud has kept the belt hostage between them, and it feels inevitable that Rhea's going to get it back. Alongside Jey Uso and LA Knight, Rhea's like one of the most over talents. She just gets huge pops every time she goes out. And it kind of makes sense. You're kicking this new era with all these, viewers. You might have a bunch of new viewers. Why not, like, get one of the most popular people and a person that has drawn a lot of people into wrestling in Rhea to be your champion? I think Dom will be involved with something. Like, I know they're probably going to bar the Judgment Day from being involved, but, Dom has to get involved somehow, and Dom could inadvertently cost Liv the title. And it really does seem like they're setting up a tag team title run potentially with Raquel and Liv, because I think they view Liv really highly, and Triple H is trying to build Raquel's character back up. So I think this feud needs to end. I think a lot of people think it needs to end. It dragged on way too long. They can't really push this till Mania. And I think that's a good thing. Let this feud end. Let new feuds happen. And it feels like a match more than likely against Io, but potentially Bianca at Mania for Rhea is on the cards. and that, you know, would be big. But I think they're probably going to give Rhea another big reign, which she had like, I think she had like a 380-day reign last time she was champion. So I think she's, you know, bigger than the belt. She doesn't really need it, but I understand why they're putting it on her. So my prediction is Rhea Ripley. The next match on the card is main event, Jey Uso taking on Drew McIntyre. I mean, I'm going to go with Drew McIntyre. Drew McIntyre needs this win. I know people love Jey Uso, but Drew McIntyre was the MVP of 2024. I know some people may argue Cody Rhodes, but for WWE, like, it's Drew. There's an argument for Cody, but there's a better argument for Drew. And Drew, legitimately, with this character, he seems to be going this direction. He seems almost primed to be the MVP of 2025 as well. Like, there's big things on the horizon. I think WWE top brass really sees him as like one of the pillars with like a Roman, a Punk, a Seth, a Gunther. Like, they see him in that main event scene. Not that he wasn't, he just like floated around with there, but I think they see him as a bona fide, whatever you want to say, main eventer right now. And he seems like he is going to get a proper world title reign in 2025 at some point. Like, Jey Uso is super over. He's the biggest babyface on the roster, but he's facing the biggest heel who really feels like he almost feels like he's the main character of WWE right now. It's hysterical. But Jey Uso's up there. Like, Jey Uso is one of the other main characters. So I can understand, like, okay, if Jey wins, whatever, but I feel like Drew needs to beat every member of the bloodline to build to Roman at probably SummerSlam 2025, where I think he finally beats Roman. Solo's bloodline could get involved and help Drew, because there's kind of been this, like, enemy of my enemy is my friend thing, or like Drew's said he's going to go after Solo last. But I could also see Jimmy or maybe Sammy getting involved with that match, costing Drew. I think if Drew loses, Drew cannot lose clean, but Drew can win clean. I think, like, Drew needs to win this match. Drew would be my prediction. Again, I could be wrong on all of these, but I think Drew wins this one. I think just the way his character is, he needs to start really building up some more wins. Because he lost the Punk feud. He did win the Sammy feud, but, like, he needs to rack up some wins. I know, like, you'd be like, oh, he's too big. A lot of these guys are too big. Like, someone like a Kevin Owens, wins and losses don't matter. With Drew's character right now, Drew needs to really be built as, like, the most credible threat in the entire company. That's my prediction. And what is, I'm pretty sure it's confirmed as the main event. I know it could change with The Rock, but I think it'd be a cool swerve that The Rock pops up not in the main event, because that's more unexpected, and sometimes you want good stuff early on in the show. The main event is going to be CM Punk against Seth freaking Rollins. I think Punk wins this one. It's funny that I'm looking at, like, oh, did babyfaces win to heel win? I think this just, like, certain things just make more sense. Punk winning this one makes way more sense, because I think this is the catalyst for Seth's full-on heel turn. Which is hysterical that, like, Punk's the babyface in all of this, even though look at all the actions he did to Drew, like, during their feud. But I think Punk is set on a collision course at WrestleMania, Clash of the Immortals, with either Gunther or Roman for a main event bout. Either he's going to have a title match against Gunther for the World Heavyweight Championship and finally get the main event at WrestleMania, and they might put the title on him. Or he does have that favor. So if you're new, at Survivor Series, CM Punk helped Roman's bloodline be their 5th member. And in exchange, Paul Heyman, who was Punk's manager at one point, is Roman Reigns' wise man. Punk is owed a favor by Heyman for helping him out, because Heyman's the one that got him to help out. So that could be a main event match against Roman at Mania, which would make sense, because that's CM Punk came here to, main event. That's like the one thing he really has left to do in his career is main event WrestleMania. I think we'll have more than 4 matches. I don't know how many more. I know one. I think one I have pretty good feeling is going to happen, and that is the New Day versus Rey Mysterio and a mystery tag team partner that was set up on last week's Raw. That Ray challenged them and said he's going to have a mystery partner. And I think based off the teasers we've seen during the episodes of Raw, I think this is Pentagon Jr., Penta El Zero. I'm just going to call him Penta. So if you don't know who he is, he's a wrestler from AEW, but he's a famous luchador. Him and his brother Ray Phoenix were the Lucha Bros, which is like this really great tag team. He did a lot of good work in the different Mexican promotions like Lucha Underground, AAA, CMLL. Some stuff in Japan probably too. He's had a lot of great matches. He's had matches against people on the roster in the past, and if you want to have a big debut, this is a sign to show, like, hey, AEW talents, look what we're going to do with you. Like, Penta came over and he's going to be on the premiere episode of Raw on Netflix, which is like the biggest episode of Raw in years. I think it's going to be like the best episode of Raw. We had a couple really great ones last year. I know the one with the Wyatt Six debut was amazing, and there was like one more insanely great episode of Raw kind of more recently. But this is going to be something people are going to be talking about for probably like the next 10 years. And I think it's going to be interesting how they handle this match. Well, like, I think this match will be on here for, besides the Penta debut, Ray is like one of the biggest names in the company. He's a recognized name from people, he's one of the few of the old guard left. And I think that, people that watched during Ruthless Aggression into the PG era will see him there and be like, oh, Ray's still here. And that would be like a reason to tune in. The New Day is the hottest act on the roster right now, besides probably Drew McIntyre, because that heel turn was pure perfection and unexpected in the way they pulled it off. And, they've been kicked out of the locker room and they're getting nuclear heat like Dom Mysterio where they aren't allowed to talk. And I think it'd be a good thing to have all these people on here. However, I think the New Day wins because I think Penta is going to turn on Ray mid-match. Penta always seems to be kind of built as a heel a lot of the time, at least during his solo runs. And I think the New Day needs this win because I don't know if they've had an actual match since being back, or since turning heel. Maybe they've had one and they've won, but they need to get a lot of wins. I think they need wins. They need to build the New Day up as like this threat, like this heel turn needs to matter. Or like a loss isn't going to hurt, right? And if Penta turns on him, that's just the best for everybody involved because it really shows. It's good. The New Day could double down and be like, see what happens when you turn on your partner or something like that, or see like when you cut away like dead weight. I mean, that's just the Rey Mysterio thing, right? That's the formula. First in partners with Rey and then turns on Rey. Batista did it, Eddie Guerrero did it, Carlito did it, Santos Escobar did it, Dominic, his own son, did it, and I think Penta will join that list. So those are the matches that I have predicted. We might see some other matches. There's a couple other ones I have in mind, but I think that because they set up some of the matches for the Rumble down the road, that might not happen. But we'll start with the segments that is going to happen, and then maybe the segments I think is going to happen. So John Cena is confirmed to kick off his farewell tour. I think there's 3 people that are going to interrupt his promo. His 2 last things or wishes to do, which is, win a world title, number 17, which I think is more likely going to be the World Heavyweight Championship. Because I think Cody and The Rock is more going to be that WWE Championship. Or he could target the Intercontinental title first and finally become a Grand Slam champion. This can put him on a collision course with 2 people, potentially 3, depending on what happens at Mania. I think Gunther could be a really great first feud for him. I think Gunther would have to win the first match and then Cena beats him in the rematch because I think that would work with that. But I think Gunther is probably the most likely person to interrupt him because you want your World Heavyweight Championship on your show. That's your, key. That's your marquee Raw belt. And I think, Gunther at the Netflix promo confirmed he's staying on Netflix. And I just think a Cena versus, if we can actually have proper Gunther, like Gunther versus Priest Gunther on the mic, or Gunther versus Randy on the mic, that would be awesome to see. Braun Breaker is also a choice. I think he's more set up for a match against Sheamus at Mania. I think Sheamus finally gets the Grand Slam at Mania. But there is a world that Cena gets challenged by Breaker. They have history in NXT. Breaker loses to Cena. And then Cena loses to Sheamus because there is a rivalry there. I think they're going to run back some of Cena's greatest hits during this tour. And I think Cena, if he wins the Intercontinental Championship, is going to do, an Intercontinental Open Challenge because look how good his U.S. Open Challenge is. That's one of the best things he did in his entire career. So I think those are the 2 most likely things. I think it could also, if Punk beats Gunther for the title, I think Punk versus Cena is probably Cena's biggest rival. It's either Cena or Cena Punk. So that could be another possibility, but Punk isn't going to interrupt him. I think it's people that are going to come out to interrupt him are either going to be Braun Breaker or Gunther, or one third option that I have here. I think Carmelo Hayes, who also has history with NXT and could be a really great first opponent back. That it can be at the Royal Rumble, or it can be at Elimination Chamber. It doesn't need to. It could be even on the Raw Netflix episodes. It could be a great welcome back Cena thing. Heck, I think that makes the most sense. If you're going to give Cena a match in this first show, Carmelo Hayes makes the ultimate amount of sense. Because they also have history from NXT. Carmelo switching to Raw has been hinted at in the transfer portal, and him targeting Cena feels extremely in character. Carmelo Hayes would be like, well, I got to knock off the biggest fish available to make myself, Melo don't miss. Melo is on him. I need to do this. So I really think it's going to be either Gunther is the most likely, then Braun Breaker, then Carmelo Hayes who interrupts Cena's promo. Someone is, and those would be the three. For returns, I think Becky Lynch is probably the one I'm most certain of because we've seen promo video of her during the Raw Netflix stuff they've been showing. And it just feels the most right. I think Charlotte Flair is also going to return for Netflix Raw. I think those are the two returns that I'm like, I feel the best about. They want this episode to be big and special, and they always push Charlotte Flair as like one of the top women. Whether you love her or hate her, like that's what they do. Like she has the most women's championships, and they're gonna push her like that. And Becky Lynch is a fan favorite, or was a fan favorite. I still really like Becky. I know some people aren't, but I think they've hinted that she's going to have a new character this time around. And if Seth is going to be on Raw, Becky's definitely going to be on Raw. And it just feels like those are the two that are the most likely. Like, there's other people they think they could hold off till the Rumble, but they want this to be a big thing. I think Becky and Charlotte would be like, there's other people that could potentially return at the Rumble. So I think Becky and Charlotte are better here because you can use them for building up different feuds. I think a lot of people, and I would agree that Charlotte's on a collision course with Tiffany whenever Tiffany cashes in. But just because someone debuts on this episode of Raw doesn't mean they're stuck on Raw. It does feel like until Mania, the rosters are going to be a little bit fluid. I know they kind of said the transfer window is going to be like that first week, but again, the build up to Mania season, the rosters become kind of fluid. But I want to talk about a promo that may trigger probably at least 2 returns and potentially 3 people coming from SmackDown over for Raw for this episode. Netflix has made it pretty obvious that they want Cody Rhodes on this show. He is the WWE Undisputed Champion. He's kind of the face of the company right now. So Cody coming over and cutting some kind of promo, probably against Kevin Owens, because they have a match up scheduled to the Royal Rumble, could bring Kevin Owens onto the show as well. But there's two other names that a Cody Rhodes promo could bring back. Because of Kevin Owens coming over, Randy Orton, who was kayfabe injured by Kevin Owens with the package pile driver, could come back and attack Owens there. You could have Kevin Owens versus Randy Orton at Raw Netflix, and that'd be a big match. Randy is maybe one of the biggest names in the company, up there with everybody, Romans and the Rays and the Cenas. Like, for the old guard, I feel like that's something they want to do. If they can draw people back, Randy Orton is one of those names that they're going to want to. So I think Randy probably makes his return here. If not, he's going to make his return at the Royal Rumble, costing Kevin Owens that match. But besides Randy Orton and Kevin Owens, The Rock, instead of helping Solo in that match, The Rock could also return here and challenge Cody Rhodes, because he's hinted at he's going after Cody Rhodes. He's going after the WWE Championship. Like, there's a feud there. And that could be interesting. The final boss is showing up to challenge Cody Rhodes. And even better, if he helps Solo and becomes tribal chief before this, he could then challenge Cody as the tribal chief and have Solo's bloodline help him. And that could just be like turn this awesome Rock character, the best work he's been doing, even better, as he has the whole faction under his control instead of having to play second fiddle to Roman. There's a couple other people that could make their returns, but I think that's more likely till the Rumble. Alexa Bliss has been seemingly teasing her return for quite some time. So with her, there's 2 possibilities. Either the Wyatt Six, who are on Raw, get a really big segment, potentially setting up like the final showdown with the Final Testament in one of these episodes leading up to the Royal Rumble, or maybe even at the Royal Rumble, which could make a lot of sense. That Alexa Bliss could show up there, either to help the Wyatt Six, as she has connections to Bray Wyatt, who Uncle Howdy Bo Dallas, that's his brother, so they're linked that way. And also Nikki Cross and Alexa Bliss have a ton of history together. So I think she either works with them or she turns on them and attacks them, and she goes full-blown heel. So I think that's more likely to see. If there's a Wyatt Six segment, she probably would appear on Netflix, but I see her more likely as our contender for the Rumble. Asuka is another one. We don't really know what the status on her injury recovery is. I think she'd be out probably until about then. This might be a little bit too early for her recovery, but like 9 months, I think, from like April. I think it was either April or May when she like, you know, got hurt or finally got surgery on her knee, and it was like a 9-month recovery time, but she's been working really hard. I would love to see her back. She's my favorite person probably on the entire roster. Come back, but I'd be curious to know what they're going to do with her. I think waiting till the Rumble makes a bit more sense unless they're trying to set something up. Now, if they had a Io Dakota final for the Intercontinental Championship, the Women's Intercontinental Championship, I think that would have been a great spot to bring Asuka back in, because I think you can split Damage Control in half potentially. But right now, I don't really know. I think they're going to hold off on Asuka till the Rumble. Another people, again, speaking of Io, you could see Io definitely getting a segment. Io is the best women's wrestler currently on their roster in the company. She's being held on that par with the Rheas and the Biancas. So I think Io and Damage Control get a segment. They are trying to build hype for the next episode. And I think the Women's Intercontinental Championship match between Lyra Valkyria and Dakota Kai, who is part of Damage Control, will be on that second episode. So I think they can set up some promo segment with Io, with Dakota, with Kairi, with Damage Control. And I think maybe they're going to plant some seeds for some kind of breakup, or Dakota going on a singles run by herself or something. Because it just feels like maybe, I don't know, Damage Control kind of needs something to spice it up right now. Maybe they're in a holding pattern waiting for Asuka to get back, but they returned babyface, but like, I don't know exactly what they're doing with them. I think Bianca Belair as tag team champions with Naomi will make an appearance. Bianca's one of the biggest names in the company. I think we're going to start to get a push towards whatever the Jade storyline is. I think Jade returns here on Raw Netflix, because they really are pushing Jade as like one of the biggest people in the company. Like, her and Bianca had shown up on a bunch of PLEs and a bunch of the posters. They used them a ton in the marketing materials. Like, and since Bianca is one of the tag team champions, it's pretty easy to have her show up on either show. Jade was tag team champions but got hurt, so Naomi came in and became tag team champions with Bianca, helping Bianca defend that belt. So I think that is a really good story with that, to be honest. Like, that's a great story that could set up a Bianca Jade match at Mania. We are really starting. This is like the first stop on the road to WrestleMania, so, you know, buckle up. We're going to see some really big things here, and I think that's going to be one of the latest. Yeah, I said I already talked about the Wyatt Six. They could have a really big segment here since they're a fan favorite. And I think the last probable promo that we can predict is that Sheamus and Kaiser probably will have some kind of segment, because that's going to build up in, you know, a battle in one of the next episodes. We could see that on this one. That could be like the 6th, because those are just really great matches. And if Braun Breaker is occupied with seeing Sheamus and Kaiser, that's like why the Braun Breaker thing could happen, is because Sheamus and Kaiser, who are kind of the two biggest challengers for Braun Breaker's Intercontinental Championship, are kind of still embarked in their own feud. So yeah, I think these are my Raw predictions, and I might do this. I think I might do this for maybe the PLEs going forward. I'm going to do my best, because I'm trying to figure out this with work schedules when that starts really ramping up. So yeah, thanks for tuning in. Feel free to like and subscribe if you liked it. Feel free to leave comments if there's other wrestling things you want me to talk about or do videos on. And yeah, thanks for tuning in. I've been your host.